Hi, this is Kathy at Counseling of Alexandria. Today I want to talk to you about the clinical skill of client retention. So, first of all, what is client retention? All that means is the likelihood that a client is going to return for a follow-up appointment. So, let's talk about that. It's very much a clinical issue. Um, just scaling like all the way back to point zero, I guess, would be for someone to reach out, email, text, or calling our center is a big deal for most people, especially adult clients, I think. Definitely for parents as well. To say, hey, I think we have reached the end of what we can do to help with this situation. We're going to look for a therapist is a really big move. The second really big move is for them to just walk in the front door and come to us for that first appointment. I think we kind of get in our bubble of being therapists that this is normal, this is just a part of life. We don't feel a stigma around it, of course, that it's really easy to forget all those social barriers. People are also carving time out of their schedule to come. We have people that come from downtown DC to get here and fight through traffic. So like it really takes just a lot to just mobilize and get in the front door, right? So you know that. So now you have your person in front of you and you're beginning the assessment, which is in self can be intimidating. And as a therapist, also like, hi, I just met you and I'm going to ask you lots of personal questions, right? So I like to even open the session with, here are expectations for today. Ongoing sessions are different than this, but so people just getting in the room, sitting down, that's a lot. And most people are pretty anxious and hide it really well. There have been studies where therapists had to rate the anxiety level they thought their clients had, and the clients were wearing a heart monitor to just rate their physiological response. And the study found that therapists assumed that the clients were way more relaxed than they were. So I even just kind of assume a level of anticipatory anxiety from the client, even if they've been to counseling before. But let's just talk about someone who never has. They don't know what to expect. They don't know how many sessions. They have no idea. This is totally unknown. It's just something they read or their friend or family said this might help. So here they are sitting on your couch. You're getting ready to do an assessment. So you want to talk to them about one, setting expectations for the first session, right? Like, so say something as far as, so today I do have some formalities I have to go over, like confidentiality, consent. We have that first appointment cheat sheet essentially that's in each office. It's for you to go over and make sure you state with every client. And to say, I'll be taking notes on my laptop. This is just how I do the assessment. Or if you're not doing that yet, here I'm just going to be taking notes as we talk today. After you go through those confidentiality, consent parts, and even before that, actually, I would say to come back to, did you find us okay? I'm glad to meet you. There is some, do you want to, here's our restroom. Here's if you'd like some coffee or something to drink. Like those comforts and those customer service points really go a long way getting started. And I do acknowledge also, this is really weird, right? Like, I know we were just meeting. This works really well, I think, especially with teens and younger adults, and even when you meet with a child for the first time, but you may not be, you may just be with parents, and to acknowledge, I know this is a big move to come here to meet with me. This is just odd that like now you've met me and I want to, ask you personal questions. I get that it can be uncomfortable. And I say too, because we work with a lot of people with anxiety, which often means a trauma history. If there's something you're not comfortable talking about today, tell me that. Just say, I don't want to talk about that. There's more to it, but that's not for today. Anything that they feel, that I want them to feel this is something where they can be safe, and not just vulnerable, and then I leave them feeling vulnerable. So I think that's really important too. So if I ask a question and you don't want to go there, you can say, I don't want to talk about that today, and we move on. So the other formalities, just getting them comfortable, giving them those customer service points, restroom, water, coffee, tea, getting comfortable in the room, the temperature. They call questions about parking, like just all those things that kind of settle the nervous system a bit. And to say, just, I'm happy to meet you. Please just tell me a little bit more about what's brought you in today is a nice way to open. Sometimes that goes really well. Sometimes that's hard for people too. So when that happens, I will back up and go, okay, and you would just start with some basic information about you, and I'll go to things like, where do you work? Where do you go to school? Are you from the area? If not, where are you from? What's your career? What is your day-to-day like? So it can start with, who do you live with? Some more benign things that usually just naturally lead into something. So to use your clinical skills. So we're already talking about, we're being very clinical, very therapy right now, but we're talking about client retention from moment one. And it's important because we want people to come and feel hope by the end of the session. That's a really important piece. Gary Landreth is a really well-known play therapist, and he's mentioned, and other play therapists have mentioned, you always want to instill a sense of hope at the first session, and that is for parents, that's for individuals as well. So that brings me to one of the bullet points of why we lose clients. So across the board, all practices, why they lose clients. One is that the client's really not sure that therapy can help them. A common belief when people are really anxious or depressed or in a bad point in life is, well, nothing has helped me so far. Now I'm in therapy. Like, I don't even know if therapy can help me. Like, is therapy helpful for other people, but not me? That's a really common held thought. Like, I'm especially broken and this is not going to work. So again, it goes to like instilling hope in the first session, teaming with the client, informing them of what therapy is like. So one of the questions you're asking in that assessment, have you ever been to counseling before? Yes, no. So it doesn't mean that they know what it's like with you, but it gives a little bit of background of like, okay, they have some sense of this or they have no idea. So again, don't go on some assumption that everyone that has showed up for therapy knows what therapy is about and what it's like. They don't even know what the schedule is going to be like. And so here we go. I want you to know that, today is a really important day because I'm getting to know a little bit about your background, and we're just getting started. What I want to know from you is like, if we walk away from here and therapy is complete, like, how are you going to feel? What goal have you accomplished? What's better in your life? All right, great, right? So you're investing in a goal in that first session. And then from that goal, hearing that from your client, so here's what I recommend because you want X. You want to be free from depression. You don't want that disturbing anxiety anymore, those nightmares anymore. So I recommend that you come in once a week if that's your recommendation. I would say at least recommend once a week when you start because you're building a relationship. And to verbalize that too. So we're building a relationship. That in itself just takes time to really build trust. And I recommend weekly sessions as we get started because progress happens over sessions, not over the time they've been in therapy. So, right, if I come to therapy once a month, my progress is going to be on one session, not the amount of progress I would make if I came in for 4 sessions that month. So you get that. And sometimes that is important for me to share with families, especially have children, and say, like, we want gains to be made as soon as possible. We want to alleviate this as soon as we can. So you're going to stand in that. Like, I recommend, we have 4 sessions a month with Johnny, once a week with Johnny, and I like to have a parent session, especially at the beginning, once a month. So in addition to him coming in, we're also going to have a parent session where you guys come in without him. And that is my recommendation. So essentially, if you think of yourself like a doctor that is writing the prescription. So here is what I recommend. People can take a prescription and throw it in the trash. They can go to the pharmacy and get the medicine and never take it. Or they can take it. So what people are coming to us for, especially in that first appointment, is guidance, direction, to be held in some kind of space and expectation. So even if somehow you say, I recommend weekly, and here's the appointment time that it sounds like, Emma's already talking to people about a good regular time when they call us. So does that still work for you guys? And, for an adult, we're going to take some time to get to know each other and for you to get comfortable. And we're working on your goals too. For a child, teenager or young child, it's going to take your little one some time just to feel comfortable with me. And that's my first goal, is just for them to feel like this is a safe place for them. Things will start to feel a little bit better typically, even for kids in like 4 to 6 sessions, just when they have that relationship built. So it's just a building block. You can't really do a whole lot more until that gets established. So that's okay to share too. So your psychoeducation is around what is the therapy process. You're also going to have a preliminary diagnosis in most cases. You want to inform the client of, here's the diagnosis I'm working with. Sometimes you haven't met with the child yet and you're given a preliminary working diagnosis, and you can let families know this is just so you can submit this to insurance once I meet with them. That could change. I'll check in with you guys on what that is, or the adult, right? You're going to be checking in and teaming with them on that. So you want to empower the client, and also you're guiding the client. So we don't want them to leave feeling like, well, that one session didn't help. That didn't do it for me. I don't feel any better. I feel worse because I just disclosed all this stuff that's been really painful and I don't know what to do about it. So a lot around just building the structure of what therapy will be like and instilling hope. I can't emphasize that enough. So that could sound like, from what you've shared with me, it sounds like you have anxiety or depression or PTSD even. We're working on what the real, the confirmed diagnosis is, but from what you've shared with me, it sounds like things are really tough and you're trying to just live with these symptoms. But I'll let you know that this is something that can go away. And I've helped many clients, right? The center has helped many clients alleviate XYZ. And I feel like you're in a great place to get there too. Like, I can see us doing some really great work together. What that will look like is meeting weekly, checking in sometimes between sessions too. So that again, it's like, now I'm informed about what this is like. There's going to be some long-term nature to this. There's going to have to be commitment to this. And you're getting that gain, and you're also telling them, I can't give you everything in one session. I wish I could, right? But maybe here's some tools to get started. Here's some information about the therapy process. It's great too if you can give someone just some basic coping skills or self-care tips. Often people have zero of that coming into therapy, and give a couple of recommendations. And you want to, so when you do this education for your client, you're standing in your power and your expertise. They are in front of us because they've decided an expert is what they needed. And you often get pushback, and that's clinical, right? So, I'm not sure I can come in every week. I've got a busy schedule coming up, or let me check my insurance and get back to you. Okay, so they've showed up for an appointment, and it's really clear discussions around money and insurance have happened before they walk into the door. It's totally fine to have those conversations again. So when you stand in your expertise, again, they can walk away from it. They can say, I don't like your recommendation. But that is not coming from them in a place of being an expert at that moment on the therapy process. You are the expert on the therapy process. So could say, okay, well, let me call you after I check with my insurance. What do I say, right? When they do that, I hear that you're concerned about what your reimbursement or your insurance benefits are. And we're definitely happy to support you around that. Actually, if we can make a phone call or get in contact with someone on your behalf, we're more than happy to do that. So, if we could put that question about the insurance on the back burner for a moment, tell me, are there any other hesitations that are coming up right now about scheduling our next appointment? So if money wasn't your issue, if money was somehow we could put that to the side, what else is coming up for you right now? And I would give you like a 75% of the time, there's some other hesitation, and it's really easy to hide behind money because we have I don't know, a society that doesn't have this, but just our society for sure. Like, you don't talk about money. It's gross, it's taboo, it's personal, but you're getting personal with your client. And so it's definitely a clinical issue because it's an easy shield to hide behind. And they can say, money wasn't an issue. Is there anything else that would keep you from scheduling for our next session? And then you're going to process whatever that is. And that's going to gain a lot of respect for you and a lot of expertise. And again, that you can stand in. I get that you're worried about money, but I'm more worried about, your symptoms and what they're going to, the cost of this in the long run. And I really recommend that we meet every week. And I would like to make that possible. So here, you're going to stand in that, and you're also just going to reflect any concerns they have. And it might turn that they aren't a good fit for the practice if it's something that they somehow came in and they absolutely must use their insurance, or that they thought they could afford that, but now they can't. I don't think we're going to get a lot of those, however, because we do a really long, comprehensive screening at the beginning. So the thing that happens a lot with therapists is we shy back. So money's one thing, I'm too busy is another thing. Again, if they've carved out and gotten their foot in the door and sat down in front of us, that means there's a part of them that can make this a priority and wants to, right? So if time wasn't an issue, would you be comfortable scheduling? Could you tell me if there's something else besides the schedule? Because this is your life, this is how you feel. So you're standing in their goal, you're standing up for their goal that they've given you, and you're standing up for the therapy process. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. So if they say, I think I can afford like every 2 weeks. Okay, well, I hear you saying every 2 weeks sounds good. This sounds like someone that's already got one foot out the door of therapy. I'm wondering if money, scheduling wasn't an issue. Could you make coming in weekly happen? So that was going to give you a lot of information. So that covers a lot of what goes on in the room. The last thing that's super important, and maybe I should have put this at the first part of our video, is the therapist's self-belief. The therapist has a rate that they believe is too high. It's more than maybe they would pay for therapy for themselves, or they just have a belief that I'm not that good of a therapist, and anytime we're touching in on money or expense, that I just shy away because I don't believe in myself and my own rate. So if that's the case, that's something for further processing. So I want you to also think about the therapy rate reflects not only that block of time in your calendar, but all the training that you've done, all the time that you spend thinking about your client, all the time that you spend planning for your session. That could be formally going through workbooks or buying books. And sometimes that's just in the car, right? You're thinking like, oh yeah, I could totally bring this up for them, or this will be a helpful podcast to share with them. I feel like that's a really hard thing to put away and say you're never spending time thinking about those clients when in that way, or if a good resource comes up, you don't automatically think I could use this to help people. So not only are they paying for your expertise in that short period of time, they're paying for it all the other times, all the training that you go to, formally, informally, the supervision that you do, the time you spend discussing their case, the time you spend just refining your own skills. And then the other side of it is you're helping people make changes that affect the whole rest of their life, which is really exciting to think about. So you aren't helping them make changes in the 45 minutes you see them or 50 minutes that you see them. We might be talking about, if it's a child and they're 6, like this investment may change the rest of the course of their life forever. And think of maybe even one small success where you could have said one thing to a child or an adult or any family member that completely, flipped a switch for them, or a light bulb moment. It completely changed how they thought about themselves or a situation, maybe removed some blame or shame or guilt, or lifted anxiety about feeling weird or different, and that is something we can't quite put a measure of time or price on, but man, like I would pay that rate, and I, when I do see my own therapist, that's how I feel. Like I would definitely pay that for the outcome of my life to be vastly more enjoyable and different, and more compassionate for myself and others in the world. So right, we can really get into that too, like one by one, as people heal, and maybe they heal through therapy with you. There's a domino effect in a positive way. If a parent is feeling better, then they can show up more for their child, and then their child is healthier and interacts better with their peers at school, and like just really be making a huge impact that you're not even aware of. So those are my thoughts on that. The other, so believing in yourself as an expert, even that you've gone to school post baccalaureate, bachelor's, just because you've done that, you have a master's degree, already has you head and shoulders above your client's process about their knowledge of therapy. And we do work with a lot of really high achieving people. Maybe they're a lawyer, maybe they're a doctor even, an astronaut even around this area, that just because they're an expert on something like aeronautical engineering does not mean they know anything about therapy process, counseling, anxiety, how our mind works. They may literally know nothing about that. And that is something I found to be true many times. So you have to be able to stand in, I am an expert, I am a very skilled therapist. They are here for a reason. It took a lot for them to get here. And yes, I am worth my rate. So if this isn't something that you find helpful, or you feel there's still a lot of trickling doubt, I think contact me and we can do some more consultation around feeling confident as a therapist. So even if you feel like a new therapist, a green therapist, young, old, whatever, like we all can have our hang-ups. For me personally, I was told a lot that I looked really young, or there's no way I could relate to parents because I probably didn't have kids. I just always looked younger than I actually was, and maybe I was on the young side. Like, we all have a lot of assets, and sometimes we even get a call that says, I want someone that really can relate to a teenager. I don't want them to be too old, or I want someone who is a parent, so they can't be too young. Like, there's someone for everyone. Anyway, so I digress a little bit, but I want you just to consider these. So your power in that first appointment and ongoing appointments: education about the process of therapy, education about their diagnosis and prognosis, instilling hope in that first session that things can get better, and that working with you, they will get better, and you have confidence and faith in that. Your rate is showing your worth, not just in that little block of time, but just domino effect throughout their life. And that you are an expert in the therapy process. You're not an expert on your client's life necessarily. You don't know all the things they got to get through in their week, and they're going to share that with you, and you're going to team with them. But once they say, this is what I want, and you say, this is what I recommend, that is you being an expert as a therapist and in the therapy process. Just like when we go to the doctor and say, I am sick, and they say, this medication will help with that. We can take that or not. And I can be the expert on my body and my body's experience and can say, I think it's a sinus infection, I think it's the flu. They're going to confirm whatever I say that is, or disconfirm it. But then they're going to say, and here is the intervention, here's the recommendation. And that is what we have to be solidly standing in. And even if that's bucked against to say, I get your concerns, money, time, whatever it is, but this is what I strongly recommend. This is like what I see get results the best, and I know you want those results, and tying it back to their goal. So I will wrap up for now. This has been a great 25 minutes or so. Hope it's been helpful. I'd love to hear your comments and thoughts about this. All right, take care.